Hey everybody, this is Carrie Clark from SpeechAndLanguageKids.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make a communication board out of a cookie sheet and a roll of magnetic tape. I'll also show you how to use a communication board with those who are unable to speak, such as those with autism, apraxia, and aphasia. First, let's talk about what is a communication board. This right here is a great example of a communication board. It's a board that has pictures on it that represent different messages that someone may want to communicate. So for example, this message says hi. It's a picture of someone waving. So if the person that's unable to speak wanted to communicate hi, they could just point to the picture. And then you would look, as the communication partner, you would look and see, oh, they want to say hi. And then you would respond just as though they had spoken it. So this allows somebody to have a means of communication that may not already be able to communicate with their mouth. So like I said, children with apraxia or autism, adults that have had strokes and may have apraxia or aphasia, a child who's a late talker, anyone who has thoughts to communicate but is unable to speak them would benefit from a communication board like this. I also like communication boards like this because they're a great introductory to what we call AAC, which is augmentative and alternative communication. And that's a whole range of different types of devices and objects that will help someone communicate who's unable to speak. So this is kind of an introductory AAC device. It's, as you can see, it's very simple. It's very simple to make. You can also get computers that will communicate the same kind of thing where when they touch the picture it would actually speak the message. Those range all the way up through a couple $1,000s, but this right here was pretty much free for me because I found a cookie sheet in my house. I had this tape already for some crafts and I just printed the pictures off of my computer. So, you know, maybe a couple bucks to produce this all together, but very easy to make. So let's talk about how to choose words to put on your communication board. I'm going to go ahead and take these off so we can reassemble it here in a minute. But the words that you want to choose are going to be words that you think that person may want to communicate. And this is going to be very different depending on who you're working with. So for a very social child or a very social adult, a picture like hi may be very important. That would help them to be able to communicate with other people. A picture like want is going to be helpful for somebody so that they can tell you that they want something, and then they can pair that with another word such as want banana. You also want to look at some common objects that the child or the adult may want to communicate. So favorite foods, favorite toys, things like different actions like sleeping or all done. Those things will help the person be able to communicate a variety of things aside from just being able to say ball or bubbles. Okay, so you want to look at those kinds of words, come up with a list of words that you think that person may want to communicate, and then you're going to try to find pictures for them. And it doesn't really matter what the picture is. Obviously, it's helpful if it represents that word, but some pictures, like the all done that I showed you, that one's kind of hard to indicate or to find a picture that represents all done. I went with the sign for all done, the American Sign Language sign, which is like this. So you can do something like that where you just take a picture of you doing the sign for that word, or you know, you could have taken a picture of a plate that was empty indicating that that was all done. But don't get too hung up on what the picture is, because whatever picture you choose, as long as you use the same one over and over again, it's going to become consistent enough that they're going to learn it. So they're going to understand that that picture represents all done. Okay, so some ways to find pictures. You can go onto Google image search and just type in the thing, copy and paste it into a Word document, and then print it out. Just be careful on this with copyright. Obviously, if you're going to mass produce this, you don't want to use Google image, but if you're just using it for yourself, that's not a problem. You can also use clip art. The only thing you want to be careful with on clip art is a lot of those are cartoons, and sometimes a cartoon of an image is more difficult for a child or somebody with cognitive problems to understand than a real photo. So if you can do real photos, that's a little better than clip art. But you can do that. You can take real photos. For example, I just took a picture of a pizza, put it on this one, and then you can also buy CDs that have a whole bunch of pictures on them that you can use as well. So those are some different options for finding the pictures. And then how we want to assemble it is you're going to, like I said, I put these pictures into a Word document on a full page. Just put a whole bunch of them on there and then cut them out into squares. I usually do about 2 inches by 2 inches. You can do whatever size works for you. If you have someone with visual impairment, you're going to want to make these pictures a little bigger. And then what I did was I wrote the word down at the bottom of the picture. You could also have that typed onto the picture and do that on the computer if you want, but this I find a little simpler. You don't have to worry about arranging things and making it all fit nicely. I just write it on the picture. So that's what I've done. I've written that. I have a whole bunch of different pictures here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my magnetic tape, and this is just a roll of magnet basically with a sticker backing on it. So it's adhesive, it's sticky on this side. So I'm just going to take a small chunk of it off like this. Whoa. Got it. And then just peel off the back. Easier said than done. And then take your picture and you're just going to apply it to the back of the picture. Just like that. You just need one little magnet for it. And then once you get those put together, you take your cookie sheet, bam. It's on there and it's set. Okay, so that's how you assemble it. Very simple to do. Make sure your cookie sheet is actually made out of metal. If you have like a silicone one, that's obviously not going to work. But metal cookie sheet, magnet, pictures, done. Not too bad. Okay, so now how do we use it? If you have somebody who has pretty good understanding, pretty good cognition, and they're ready to use a communication board, you can do like what I just showed you at the beginning of the video where there's a bunch of pictures on there and just kind of show them what they are and talk through it. That may be a little more difficult for someone who's new to using AAC or new to using communication boards or a young child. So what I would recommend for that is you pick one picture to start with. Let's say you have a child with autism and their favorite food is apple and they would do anything for an apple. So you're going to take your apple picture and you're going to put it right there in the middle of your board. Okay, so you have apple on there. And then whenever the child reaches for an apple or indicates to you in some way that they want that apple, you take their hand and you point it to the apple. You just touch the apple with it. As you're touching it, say, apple, then hand them a piece of apple. Okay, keep doing that. Apple, hand them an apple. Do that over and over again until they start to understand. And then instead of holding their hand and pointing for them, the next time you give them the next time they want an apple, pause for just a moment and see if they'll point to it on their own. Or you can take their elbow and direct that over towards the picture instead of doing all of it for them. You basically want to fade back your prompting so that they're doing more of it on their own. Once the child is able to touch the apple when they want the apple, then you're going to want to move it around. So next time you put it over here, apple. The next time you put it over here. And you just move it around so that they have to find where that apple is. Once the child gets pretty consistent with this, and this could take a couple weeks to be able to do this, so don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen right away. But once you've practiced this over and over and the child's able to do that, then you're going to want to add another picture. Pizza. So maybe you have pizzas and apples that the child can choose from. Then you want the child to touch the one that they want and then get it. So you're going to slowly increase the number of pictures on the board this way. So you can start with some foods or some toys, some really common, highly preferable things, and get those on there. And then once they start doing a little better with that, then you're going to want to start adding more. So let's say that you've been doing this for a while with this child and you're ready to add some more pictures. So you've got some foods over here. Whoops. Sorry, I have the dropsies today. So you might have some pictures like hi, some social things. You want to be able to let the person be social as well as being able to request things. Things like all done are good ones. That way that they are able to tell you when they're finished with an activity. Even if you don't want them to be finished, it's still good that they have a way to communicate that. Otherwise, that's when you get the tantrums. You might want to be able to ask to drink or eat. Or maybe they need help. That's a great one for little kids, especially if there's something that they can't get into, like a box that's closed. Maybe they want to go outside. Maybe they're hurting. You can have a selection of toys for them. You can have want on there. Sleep. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to show you what a complete board might look like once you have quite a few things on here that the child is able to communicate. And it doesn't really matter the order that you put the pictures in, but I would recommend keeping it pretty consistent. as you are doing this, try to keep them in the same places so that the child remembers where they are, or the adult. Okay, so here we have a whole board. These things right here are all things that are going to be needed to communicate in all settings. So want, that's pretty general. You can use that in any setting. These right here, toys, maybe those are only going to be available sometimes. And these foods, that's only going to be available during snack time or lunch or dinner. So these sections over here, you can just pull those off and put something else on. So maybe you're doing a Play-Doh activity, you pull off the foods, and then you put on a whole row of Play-Doh related vocabulary. You can switch these out because you have magnets on them, and that's the key here. So I recommend having a section that stays there all the time so that they have some basic words that they can communicate, and then a section that's going to change based on what's available at any time. Okay, so there we have it. Let's see. I think we've talked about everything that I wanted to cover. So if you have any questions, of course, leave those in the comments of this video. Again, this is going to be really helpful for anyone with autism, apraxia, aphasia, anyone who has thoughts to communicate and is not able to get those out with speech. Try this for a little while. If this seems successful, then there's a whole world of AAC that you can use to open up with that. And if you want more information on AAC or alternative communication methods, you can check out my website at www.speechandlanguagekids.com/AAC page, and that will redirect you to a page on my website that will give you all kinds of information about alternative communication and how it can be used with children and adults with all kinds of different diagnoses. So go ahead and check that out, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can get updates about all of the new videos that come up as soon as they go live. Thanks so much for watching.